Today, we are very pleased to welcome Meaghan Stiles and Jimmy Fong from the City of West Sacramento. Meaghan is the Economic Development Manager for the city, and she leads efforts to foster the growth and development of the business community. In her role, she's responsible for planning, designing, and implementing economic development strategies, as well as acting as a key liaison and facilitator between industry and local, state, and regional partners. Meaghan believes the key to success in her role is providing value to her clients through superior customer service and integrity. Jimmy Fong is a senior transportation engineer and licensed traffic engineer for the city, where he manages current day-to-day transportation operations and facilitates transportation planning and engineering projects. Jimmy enjoys the challenge of working through complex transportation issues for a relatively small city, ranging from traffic control planning with the A's, improving transportation connectivity within the city, constrained by the Sacramento River, deep water ship channel, and historical development patterns, and addressing safety for all modes of travel. I would like to welcome Meaghan up to the podium. Oh, you're live.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Meaghan Stiles with the City of West Sacramento. This is probably going to be a little bit different than maybe some of the presentations that you generally get. I have no transportation technical experience in any regard whatsoever, other than hearing what Jimmy has relayed during our meetings regarding this kind of topic. So I'm hoping that I can give you a little bit of insight into just the thought process that we had to go through and frankly, the panic that ensued when we found out that the A's were coming to West Sacramento and what was really tasked of us and how we worked through that process in collaboration with a number of different departments, but specifically transportation related issues as well. So as you can see, I'm sporting some Play the West Way gear. This is kind of our marketing campaign that we came to love through this process. We don't really have, or didn't prior, any type of formal slogan, marketing campaign, anything creative, a creative way to get information out to our residents and to fans and people that were coming to the game. So we were really tasked with creating something with a very quick turnaround that we could utilize to help support our businesses and transmit information to folks that were coming to the games and just a creative way to help support our city. So kind of some of the topics that I'm going to cover are the campaign goals. So what we were really looking to achieve by kind of going after this campaign, what our target audiences were, and really what we were aiming to convey to people. Our small business playbook that we developed, and then we have some fun trivia, and I have some Play the West Way swag that we're going to give away. So our goals really of this campaign were to drive traffic to our local businesses. So obviously being a little bit smaller of a city, just directly across the river from Sacramento, we wanted to try to ensure that when folks were coming to games, that they were spending their money before and after in West Sacramento and not in Old Sacramento and Midtown. Although we love them, we would like the money to come to our businesses, specifically our small businesses. We wanted to share important logistical information. So parking was like the topic of months and months and months of discussion. And we wanted to make sure that when we had that plan solidified, that we were able to convey that to people, how to, and I'm sure Jimmy will go over much more of this, but how to find parking, how to pay for parking, the logistics behind all of that. And then general West Sacramento pride. So creating, we didn't ask for the A's to come here. They were placed upon us. And so trying to really take ownership of that and welcoming them while also not losing ourselves in just becoming like an A's town. We're still West Sacramento. And, how we can have some general pride in our city and what we've accomplished. Sorry, it's lagging a little bit. So when we were thinking about this marketing campaign, we had a number of target audiences. So families, Obviously, we want to be able to encourage not only the A's, but still support the River Cats. They're a very, family friendly event venue, encouraging families to have the experience here, like they did in Oakland. Regional fans, so trying to get traffic here for folks that used to go to A's games, even though I know it's kind of a sore spot for any of you who are A's fans, them moving here, but and really drive foot traffic into our city, especially for those that might not even have ever even known that we existed as a city, that maybe we were a facet of Sacramento and not our own city. So, an opportunity to show ourselves off to people that didn't even know that we existed. And then tourists. So, trying to, again, get foot traffic not only to the games, but maybe to our hotels, stay for the night, explore the city. And so, those are really our three main areas that we were trying to target in the campaign. So we went through a number of iterations of this with a consultant in a very short amount of time. So we had originally, or I in economic development we had originally been pursuing kind of a larger tourism campaign that had a much longer timeline to get to a place where we had slogans and materials and marketing plans. And our city council in January said, you need to have something before opening day. So we did a major pivot and kind of went with something that was more baseball rooted and really centered around kind of the radius around the ballpark to really encourage welcome folks and then encourage them to patron the places around the ballpark. So we focused on rooted in baseball was kind of the theme that we were going for, and that's where Play the West Way came from. So we've had baseball in West Sacramento for a long time. This is just another addition, another layer to that kind of tradition. We also have really involved baseball and softball and little league. Like it's truly a cultural thing in West Sacramento. So really playing off of that and celebrating that. And so that's where Play the West Way came from. And I want to make sure that I convey this is our consultant that came up with this amazingly creative, awesome thing with staff. I can't take any credit for the actual creative aspect of this. So we worked with the Honey Agency. I don't know if any of you have worked with them for any outreach that you might have done in your transportation. They were great. And so we coined the phrase the baseball side of the river. So, in Sacramento they have basketball, and in West Sacramento we have baseball. So we coined that term kind of for ourselves, and then also every day is game day because quite literally almost every day there is a game in West Sacramento if it's River Cats or the A's. Um, so the kind of heaviest lift that we went through was creating, if any of you have been by the River Cats A's Stadium, you've seen these beautiful banners. They had been essentially blank and didn't have anything on them, not even the banners, they just had the hooks for a number of years. And so this was a really good way for us to celebrate West Sacramento, make it feel kind of like a place down there, not just a stadium in the middle of a city, but very welcoming. Um, and so we have a website, so gowestsac.com, which right now just goes to our city internal website. We kind of created this as a central hub to relay transportation and parking information, hotel information, retail options, all of those things to encourage, create a central place that people could go to. Our website is not the greatest. As anyone who is in a city or municipality, like the websites are not they can't do a lot sometimes with the platforms that were given. So this was just a way to have a central URL that folks could go and get all the information that they needed. Residents also. So, the impact, I'm trying really hard not to talk about any of the transportation because I know that Jimmy's going to do that. The impact to residents was going to be significant as well. So not just people that are coming to the game, but people that live around the ballpark and even further. I mean, there's just more cars that are going to be in the city. Parking is changing. And so we were trying to use this as a hub to really get information out to residents and to patrons. So we created this small business playbook, which I think is the greatest thing that came out of this whole marketing campaign. Um, we wanted to find a way to support our small businesses and really have them take ownership over this campaign that we created. So with our consultant, we created this small business game day playbook. And essentially, I'm going to kind of go through it, but essentially what it does is it allows the small businesses, it gives them access to all of the high resolution images, all of the colors, um, all of the taglines, kind of ways that they can use all of this information that we created to help promote themselves through this marketing campaign. It also has crucial information about transportation, parking, road closures, all of that as well, because again, our small businesses are impacted with this. So, yeah, this is kind of the table of contents. This is intended to be a digital form. So we actually have links, like we have all of the image and everything hyperlinked in here. So it's not intended to be a printed, although I would have really liked it to be a nice little pamphlet we could give people. It is intended to be digital. We have a letter from our mayor. So this is just kind of, we also have this translated into Spanish, which I will tell you was quite a lift as someone who doesn't have access to a lot of translation services. But we have this in Spanish, and we're also looking to translate it into Russian because that is another prominent language in West Sacramento. Um, and so we kind of, it just goes through the campaign overview, giving all of our business owners an idea of how we got here and how they can utilize that to drive foot traffic into their businesses. The other piece that I'll mention is in economic development, we have a small business accelerator program, which we kind of upped the timeline on when we found out that the A's were coming. So we have a number of grant programs that small businesses can use to help beautify the exterior and interior of their facilities because they're hopefully hosting more people. And if you have outdated exterior and interior, maybe you're not going to get the same patrons to come back again. So we do have money available that businesses can use to kind of beautify their spaces. So this is the style guide. Yeah, like I said, gave businesses access to all of the high resolution images. We're going to be going into a second phase of this marketing campaign in a couple of months or in probably a month. And those are really going to be some creative ways that we can encourage people to patron a number of businesses in the city. So we have a lot of breweries that maybe people don't know about doing some sort of a passport program or fun things like that where we encourage people to come and visit a number of places before and after the game. These are just kind of some ideas of ways that the businesses can use the marketing campaign to promote themselves on social media. We do have some window decals that we are giving out to local businesses to help them just kind of show their pride for the city and that they're on board with this. Um, and then this is kind of where we got into the other piece of this, where we're really informing the businesses on what is going on in the city and how many games there are and when they can expect road closures. This beautiful map, I cannot tell you how many people we tried to get to do this, and Jimmy was just like, whipped it out in an afternoon and sent it and was like, "Oh, is this the information that you'd want on the map?" We're like, "Yes." We asked a consultant to do it. It was everyone wanted to overcomplicate everything. And to Jimmy's credit, this is what we ended up going with, and it did not take him very much time. So we wanted something that, we have major employers that are near the ballpark that have folks that are working in office. So obviously, if there are evening games that start at 6:45 and you have 1,000 employees that are coming out of your office at 5, you know, there needs to be some information conveyed to them on how they can get out of their with the least amount of traffic. We have an apartment complex that is literally located 500 feet from the ballpark. They're affected as well. So we use this guide and especially this map and information also to I know there were community meetings that were done with the apartment complexes that were right around there too, because this does directly affect them. The road closures affects them. And even though folks are literally living in what we've deemed an entertainment district, sometimes they still have a hard time understanding that there is going to be an impact to them based on the entertainment in the district that they moved into. So that was kind of a challenge. And yeah, this is just kind of the end of the playbook. Um, we I just created some trivia because I wanted to give swag away and I was trying to find a creative way to do it. So it's not very many questions. I'll just kind of like pick on whoever I see raise their hand. And I have some hats and some pins, some cool pins that you can show your West Sacramento pride. Um, and yeah, I think we're going to do questions when Jimmy is done. So if you have any specific questions about anything related to what I presented, I'm happy to take them at the end. So, round one. So what year did West Sacramento become an official city? 87 is correct. All right. So there's pins in the little bags if you want a pin. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So which river borders West Sacramento to the east? All right. That's another winner. All right. So round two is the A's specifically in West Sacramento. So what year, this will give you an idea of the timeline we had. What year did the A's announce their temporary move to West Sacramento? 2024. So we literally had, I think, we'll say it was a year, but it was less than a year. And I was telling Jimmy this actually on the way over that I literally remember coming into our office and we have a little TV in the front and turning it on and being like, oh, there's a press conference happening. We didn't know about it. 500 feet down the road at the ballpark. Oh, the A's are, oh, next year they're coming to the city that I work for. And it was like panic ensued immediately after that. But staff was really not given an insight. Like we didn't know that it was happening. I mean, I think our city manager obviously did, but like at a general level, there was no knowledge that this was happening before the press conference happened. So, what year were the Oakland A's founded? It is 1901. All right. Which legendary A's player is known as baseball's greatest base stealer? Mm, Ricky Henderson. I think you get a hat also though because you raised your hand. That was a, I actually thought for a second I didn't include the answers on my side, so I had to think for a second like what ones have I seen? All right, so we have two more questions. What unique local trail runs along the river and connects to Old Sacramento? In the very back. Riverwalk. And this is a fun one. How many weeks did staff have to produce a marketing campaign from scratch before opening day? 5. And that's it.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Yeah, so as Megan alluded to, we didn't have a whole lot of time, but we're able to accomplish a lot for our small but powerful city. Today, I'm going to be covering a lot of the topics around the transportation planning efforts for coordinating the A's arrival to West Sacramento. Um, a lot of coordination between various departments. Unbelievable amount of communication, expertise, skill set, and hard work from all of our city cross departments. Um, and with those challenges, there's several lessons learned that I'm happy to share with you as if there's any, not that MLB team will move into like your city and you have a very specific project to this application, but there's a lot of good lessons learned regarding just complex projects and that I hope you can take away. So, as Megan had shared, we got this announcement in April of 2024. And the plan is for um, 3 seasons of A's baseball within Sutter Health Park, with a possible fourth season in 2028 prior to their move to Las Vegas. But the main part of this is that, yes, it's not just a major league team playing in a small city and a minor league a baseball stadium, but that this is the only facility that would essentially, except for maybe the Rays currently, facility that would be sharing a facility for both a minor league AAA team and a major league team in our city of 55, 60,000 people. So a lot of efforts needed to be coordinated within a very short period of time. Um, as a personal background, I had only started at the city in July of 2024, so I wasn't even around when this was announced, but we'll kind of go through some of the timelines of the initial efforts. So, as you might know, that not a whole lot of the transportation coordination was with the A's staff specifically. A lot of the formation of this was that the River Cats and the Sutter Health Park ownership group, which is actually owned by the Kings, um, kind of led a lot of the initial efforts to coordinate and ongoing coordination for for the A's arrival to West Sac. Prior to um, for all of the previous years where it was just the River Cats, West Sacramento PD has taken a lot of the efforts to refine and manage the traffic control plan with the River Cats and any other events. Um, so they had a lot of institutional knowledge of, how we set up traffic control plans before and after a game, how the coordination with the parking operators worked, and how best to accommodate a AAA team and that common type of attendance that we see. Uh, After the first several months of the announcement, we had a initial coordination between a lot of different leaders in the city, as well as with the River Cats and the Kings, to discuss the overall game plan of how we're going to accommodate all of the changes that needed to be made for the A's. And that included one, the biggest one is parking because, we're having to receive a lot more travelers and attendees for the entire shared season between the River Cats and A's, as well as changing a parking operator. And so previously, the River Cats had their specific staff that were managing the parking. But as part of the move to with the A's, the property owners had coordinated an outside vendor to manage that. So a lot of changing parts in a very short period of time. And so, as you can see here, we had coordination with the police department, a lot of different folks in community development, including our transportation and mobility division with myself, our building division, because there's new facilities that needed to be built to accommodate um, the additional baseball and planning staff, economic development, Meaghan's group, including our parking manager that sits within economic development. A lot of coordination there. Public Works to facilitate, additions of some of the equipment that we needed to facilitate traffic and all other aspects. Fire department, and a big shout out to our city manager's office. Kind of along the initial stages was selecting a representative from our city manager's office, who really served as the project manager to help keep us all coordinated. That was very key for facilitating the success while we went through this planning process. So as you can see here, these are the parking areas that have already been established for the Sutter Health Park area. They're color coordinated by lots. We also had the addition of using the Ziggurat Garage, which is our pyramid building that is a city-owned garage to the north, and then additional uh, parking areas for A staff and for media. So some of the initial aspects of this were, trying to just gather information. What is our current parking? What is our current traffic control plan? And so that data collection process was a little bit challenging. And you can see here, a lot of it required institutional knowledge from different representatives, whether they were from the River Cats or whether they were from the police department, and in the way that they can convey the information as easy as possible. And so some of that was just print out sketches of like a map and just using colored pencils to show, okay, these are our parking areas and these are where people generally go. And same with information we were provided either by the River Cats of showing like these are where we set up our traffic cones in the past. So you can see here, it's not very easy to decipher, and trying to even just gather this information was a little bit challenging too because of all of the different efforts that needed to be made. I can share that the police department had a tremendous amount of work on their plate. As you can imagine, not just coordinating all of the new needs for the safety and security requirements for to meet MLB standards. They also had to hire a lot of staff to be able to manage the traffic control for essentially double the amount of baseball that any other stadium of this capacity would need, and what we had previously with just the River Cats. So a lot was just trying to pick the brain of like PD of what is the current plan, what are we trying to propose of improvements, and therefore I can also share that in this whole process, being new to the city, a lot of it was just getting familiar with different staff, which I'm very appreciative of. It due to the short timeline and the lack of, say, funding clarity, it would have been nice to hire a consultant with help on the traffic side, but there are a lot of moving parts that didn't quite allow for that to happen in this realm. Um, my initial goal was coming from transportation background is to look at the traffic operations of both the current River Cats operations and any things that we might need to propose for improvements when the A's come to town, especially with changes in the parking, traffic control plan, and all other aspects of the new kind of changes with baseball. And so, I was looking into, collecting data from one of our River Cats high attendance games back in August of 2024, last year, and looking to do synchro some traffic, as many of you are familiar with, to help inform, how best can we modify different closures or signal timings to accommodate the traffic. That was my intention. But as things kind of get complicated as we figure out, what are really the key needs that we need to meet the goals for once the A's arrive. And so a lot of it was more just communication of what is our plan, both internally so that the police department can manage and set up all of the traffic control devices that they need, as well as communicating to our residents and all the visitors. So there's a lot of different communication needs that were more the highest priority needs from the transportation planning side. And so while we were going through a lot of the struggles with one, figuring out what the plan is and being able to convey it, I think there was a lot of back and forth in terms of like who can make this map, what type of information are is each party aware of, and this is where I just was kind of seeing a lot of back and forth markups being done, and really just took the initiative. I have some GIS skills, so I just put together a map from my knowledge at that point that I had with PD, and put together the type of the maps that we're seeing here that show really just like how do people get to the stadium. This is ultimately then that what got rolled into the more polished version that Meaghan had shared. But um, this information was the culmination of just taking initiative to, put something together and sharing it with our internal group. Um, on the right, we have a similar type of map that was more used for our to share with our residents. We had to implement some post-game road closures to facilitate traffic, both some hard closures for all vehicles as well as some soft closures to still maintain access for residents. And you can see here on the far right, we provided a lot of the residents in the Bridge District and up at Capitol Yards resident pass to show at key uh, road closures so that they could still maintain that access. So a lot of it was quite challenging of getting the information out. We still continue to receive complaints regarding I thought this pass would let me through every access that is shown on this map, or that they come across during the post game, but it's not the case. We still need to best facilitate the safety of all pedestrians and all traffic in the area. Some of the earlier discussions too were around improving and moving the rideshare pickup and drop off location from immediately on Fifth Street, which posed a lot of safety concerns from some of the past seasons with the River Cats, to propose other locations. So in this way, a lot of that was led by our police department as well, proposing new ideas. I would then provide them comments of, okay, if we were to accommodate here, these were other types of concerns that we would have from a safety standpoint, and ultimately get to our current location, which, although it's not ideal, it is the safest and most accommodated location, that is at 7th and Cabalton. So kind of in this direction here. The rideshare also required coordination with all of the rideshare vendors, Uber, Lyft, and then our own city rideshare via, to create a geofence so that anyone that's within these boundaries will be directed to go to the designated pickup and drop off. It's not still perfect system, but at least we're moving most of the folks to an area that's best able to accommodate those users as well as the other traffic that is parking and leaving the parking areas. As I had mentioned, too, we have a wonderful service that a lot of our West Sac residents really appreciate via on-demand rideshare service. These type of vans that go all throughout the city, and during this whole planning process, we had a pilot project that included expansion into these three key areas in downtown Sacramento. First time we were able to use these vans to cross the river. And that provided a huge amount of benefit for our current residents, as well as introduce potential, like, wanting desire to expand the facility of using, for non-residents, baseball traffic to go like to and from West Sacramento and downtown Sac. Um, Although it was very popular, I think a lot of it was trying to curtail like the different sources of both funding that we have available, as well as the primary benefit for all users, to make sure it was balanced, which kind of leads to the next topic with our transit coordination. Some of the earlier discussions were about trying to, how are people getting from Amtrak over to the stadium? Well, one, how do we fund all of these things? So we can propose all these ideas. How do we make it happen both financially and operationally within this short amount of time? And so, fortunately, at least utilizing the existing kind of transit infrastructure and operations that we had, we were able to coordinate with YOLO TD to expand slightly our bus service to provide an additional sweeper bus for the post games on our 42A and B routes, so that some folks that are trying to use transit are able to be accommodated. Um, the other facet of a lot of transit planning efforts that we had to continue to pivot was where to place ADA pickup and drop off. And so this was challenging because, the 7th and Cabalden lot, although it is ADA, has an ADA accessible path, it's not as ideal because it's not as close to the stadium, but we still don't want to have the issues of placing pickup and drop off on Fifth Street, which has some of the conflicting traffic issues. So initially, we had proposed having pickup and drop off within the green lot right here next to the stadium, but faced operational issues with the parking vendors and operators. So we pivoted to going down here to our city-owned lot that was here at Fifth and Bridge, and then having a golf cart shuttle service for, selected folks to go up to the ballpark. These are types of decisions that have to change in real time across our internal city working group. And so, still deal with complaints about this location and are exploring some of the infrastructure needs to move it potentially to Riverfront Street. As Meaghan had alluded, we do have baseball almost every day, and most of it is our night games, but there are challenges when we have certain day games in place. So some of it was really key of taking the schedule for both the River Cats and A's and getting it to a combined schedule that's more easily accessible on the data side of things, so that we can filter out. We do deal with a lot of conflicting traffic if we have a day game on a weekday. And so being able to filter certain things with a combined schedule was very key, as well as coordinating with some of the other closures. As you've driven through West Sac on Caltrans facilities, you probably have dealt with various roadway closures that we have to coordinate a lot with. And I'll share a little bit more about that later. With the new addition of like baseball and the higher like media needs for the A's, there were also needs to review a lot of site plans for additional parking to accommodate that staff. So some of it required looking at, these temporary unimproved lots that we have throughout the stadium area, and really quickly trying to put together like conceptual layout plans and review traffic plans so that access, both getting to the site as well as crossing any of the particular intersections that are needed, are as safe as possible. This is quite challenging when we're trying to go back and forth between various parties in a short period of time. As I shared, a lot of different extended roadway closures or more freeway facility closures to accommodate Yellow 80 and 50 project that has been going on. So ongoing, we meet with Caltrans and their construction management staff to review, those detour plans, make sure that they're not conflicting with a lot of the key A's games that we have. Even just the coordination with Meaghan and our marketing side of Play the West Way and installing our beautiful banners throughout the Bridge District and rest of the city, required a lot of quick action to help facilitate. How do we actually help the installer get these done? They didn't have a traffic control plan set up for, temporary closures where banners were encroaching on our roadway facilities. So some of it required some quick action to even come up with a plan to help support that installation. And as we alluded to with the lessons learned, a lot of changing needs, and therefore it was very helpful to pivot throughout the course of the project. Um, I had shared that I wish I had more time to do more traffic analysis and operations to inform potential changes to signal timings and things of that nature. But essentially, halfway through, I had to scrap that because there wasn't enough time for the key needs that we had. So, like I shared, we had that project manager, Amber Sayasset, who's in our community city manager's office, kind of lead the cross-departmental meetings. We had weekly meetings for in the lead up to the start of the season. A lot of helpful ways to, just share in my conversations with PD about uh, you can if you want to just mark up a map like on Google Maps and just like show me really quickly what your proposed plans or modifications to traffic control plan. Those are areas that it was helpful to be more proactive about sharing those ideas and being able to receive that feedback from staff that might not have the same technical skills that maybe us engineers or planners have. Um, I think a lot of it, because we were in this tight time frame, was throughout the process, knowing how hard we were working on all of these planning efforts was to acknowledge the staff efforts um, for, stepping up in different challenges, as well as providing the space to complain and sharing about, a lot of things are outside of our control. We were trying to work through some of the requirements from the new parking operators and that they weren't meeting those deadlines. So some of it was just sharing that, this challenge is really hard because we were supposed to have like certain things with the parking website up and running by a certain deadline. So overall, it was really helpful to pivot just to meet the needs that we had to face. And so we still have ongoing needs based on improvements to our traffic control plan, responding to comments from the public and other nearby projects. One that you might see is a lot of the police department staff have to set up temporary cones to facilitate the traffic control, and that takes a lot of work to move a bunch of cones back and forth. And so we're trying to work on shifting some of those cones to more permanent bollards so that they don't have to spend as much time. Some of the other things are to modify the traffic control plan for special events. We had a big marquee game with the A's and Giants on 4th of July with fireworks, so there were a lot of concerns about modifying the plan for that. As you can see, we developed some new maps. Um, down the line, we have some key projects that we'll have to figure out too, in terms of when I Street Bridge starts construction and when our streetcar project that is right in front of the stadium that might overlap with the tail end of the A's being in town. And we have, ongoing development within the Bridge District, such as like this high rise over here that, while that's being constructed, we have to just make sure that all of the access coordination is and timing of which is as seamless as possible. So this is our cone project we're looking to replace some bollards with. But overall, I want to thank you for being able to share, just how amazing West Sac is. As Amanda had shared, I really like these complex types of projects, even though they can be overwhelming at times. But I'm really happy to share kind of the outcome of it and some of the lessons learned. So, yeah, thank you.
So we have about 10 minutes left. So if you have questions for Jimmy or Meaghan, please go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. And then we'll go around the room. And if there's any questions in the chat, then Maria in back will read them out.
Yes. Is there a big difference in how they're handled on each side of river cats? Yeah, so the question was, is there a big difference in th how things are handled on a A's night versus River Cats night? Um, for the most part, no, there's some differences in terms of reduced amount of traffic control plan. The ultimate traffic control plan, um, with all of the different roadway closures more during the post game, um, will be in place, but there's certain closures that we don't need as much of during lower attendance games. Yeah. Yeah, no, none of the games, there's no like double header games with A's and River Cats. So that was all coordinated ahead of time with their schedule.
Something that's kind of interesting is so they planned the schedule, as Jimmy said, where the River Cats will have a homestand and then the A's will have a homestand. And they literally flip the entire stadium, including the merchandise, all to River Cats and all to A's during that time. So it's literally two different stores. And so to achieve that, they have to do it at two different times. But it's like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a completely different ballpark, but they flip the entire place for the different homestands.
How many more, or can you quantify somehow the increase in communications from the public with the introduction of the A's games? I know it increased, but I'm curious how much more on game days maybe.
Yeah, I think we received a lot of questions and concerns around like public from the public in the initial like month or two when we were implementing at the beginning of the season. Um, I I interacted with maybe like a third of the type of comments versus comments being received from and responded to by our police department. So I'm not sure on an exact ballpark of the type of comments, but it was a fair amount of concern.
First, congratulations, because I think from opening day until now, the traffic patterns and people's understanding of what's going on has improved tremendously. So kudos to you and your team for great communication on that side. And the alerts that you put out to say when game days are and what time so people can prepare is really helpful. I'm curious how proactive or helpful the MLB or the A's have been in your efforts, because you are but one city, they are an entire organization. So I'm curious how they've been helpful or not.
Um, I had alluded to in the beginning that the A's haven't really been that involved in this entire process. More so the coordination with the stadium owner, which is the the Kings ownership group, and like the River Cats are the primary staff that we have interacted with, and they've been a good partner in terms of facilitating the types of information that we need, because like us city staff, they also had a very short time frame to facilitate everything on their end, but mostly the River Cats and the Kings, and not so much the A's.
Just a quick follow-up to that then. Do you think if they were more involved, that would help your community engagement and your local businesses thrive if they had the MLB or the A's as a more vocal partner?
I don't know if it would have in this specific context, because it was more the time constraint that was really the main issue with making sure we plan everything accordingly and relay that message to the public as best as possible.
I can, oh, That was loud. Sorry. I can kind of add a little bit to that. As far as our businesses go, there is a little bit of a level of concern that there's not more direct local investment from them. I know they sponsored like the ice skating rink in Sacramento, and we're like, cool, but like we're over here, you know? So there is some concern. There's also been a lot of inquiries from our businesses on vendors and like, are they going to change, you know, because how MLB does vendors. For any of you that have been to an A's game, you know, all of the marketing and all the banners inside the stadium, they're at a much higher level. They're not local. And so that is concerning to some people. So I know that there are plans in the future, at least we've heard loosely from the A's, to do some sort of focus locally. But there's so many cooks in the kitchen with the Kings, the River Cats, the A's, and then MLB. It's sometimes unclear who gets to make the decision. And so sometimes things just go round and round, and then we're like, okay. But yeah, Jimmy is correct. Like our local partners have been really great, but there's just a really large chain of command. So
Yeah.
Oh, earlier in the presentation, I remember you mentioned how you wanted to have visitors spend money in West Sac and not, in Sacramento or outside of the city. What are the specific ways that you're aiming to do that? Because I feel like with having such a big, Sacramento's right there, it might be more alluring to go spend money there instead.
yeah, so we're encouraging. So that's kind of part of the reason, or the main reason we developed the marketing campaign, was to help businesses be able to market themselves, because a lot of our businesses are very small, especially some of our food and beverage that is directly around the stadium. And maybe they don't have a consultant or a creative way to market their business. So giving them a tool to use and curtail to their own business to do more marketing outreach. That's also where the small business accelerator money, we've helped facilitate some beautification efforts. And then the second phase of our marketing efforts are going to be directly around the city doing marketing to help encourage folks to go to the businesses. I mean, obviously we can't force people to, and that's unfortunate because that would be great. But we're actually kind of finding that people, I mean, at least from some initial things that we've done, like there hasn't been that much of an uptick in a general sense. People are really coming to the game and then leaving. They're not spending a lot of their money anywhere. And so we do also work with like the Downtown Sacramento Partnership, Midtown Association, Visit Sacramento, to do more of a regional reach. We just have to make sure that we are remembered because we're the small fish. And so we do work with our other partners because they have a little bit bigger voice than we do. So.
Maria, do we have any questions in the chat?
No questions. It just says that you guys do really good with traffic in West Sac. So just some praise.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Thanks. Just wondering if you had been given more time, let's say you had a couple years to plan for it, what would you have done differently? Is there anything you would have done differently, or would it just have been easier?
I think figuring out the funding source and both reimbursement from the A's or whoever the appropriate party to help our staff time. And that would have also cleared up being able to hire a consultant. I think on Meaghan's side, they had other avenues in the works to partner with Honey to help with their marketing program. But on the traffic side, coordination with PD, if we had more time and secured funding, it would have been helpful to have external support.
And I think also we have a number of kind of like infrastructure projects that have been on their, correct timeline. But had we been given a couple of years, we would have had an opportunity to really fast track those, whether that's road improvements or, I mean, just like landscape beautification. I mean, we were just like stressing to make sure that it looked as nice as possible, median improvements. And then we have some hotels and other major projects that are happening that we would have loved to complete. And streetcar, wouldn't it have been so great to have streetcar to go across? So I think just being able to fast track some projects would have been great.
All right, so it is 1 o'clock. There were so many great questions. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. And I think if you have any other questions for Jimmy or Meaghan, I think you can probably come up here and get their card or maybe ask them before you leave. But with that, thank you all for coming to our July lunch program. And hopefully we'll see you in August at our next lunch program or in September at our fashion show fundraiser. So as you leave, if you can kind of recycle your